Are you having a look at whether Archive Shuttle is working or not, and perhaps discovering that it doesn't appear to be working when it should? Then one of the steps to carry out is a configuration review. Essentially, what we're looking for here is whether something has changed or has stopped working. Every migration is different, so what is normal is different between projects, even down to the individual components, size of the staging area, the type of disks used for the staging area, the specification of machines running components. Well, it's all very different from project to project. So before going down this route of looking to see if anything has changed, you need to know what the normal is. We start by looking at changes. That's by looking at the system health page as we see here. It might show that some modules have stopped working. This can be especially relevant to an investigation in an environment with many source and/or target modules. For example, in an enterprise migration between Enterprise Vault environments, or from an Enterprise Vault to a different target, there are other modules installed on many servers. It's not uncommon to have 10 or more servers involved in that kind of source environment. And of course, these are likely to be spread around in terms of their network location. They might not even be administered by one group, or they might be registered by a team of people. For many reasons, modules might have stopped working by someone actually stopping them whilst performing another task. They might not think about the impact on the migration, or that the staging area is full. It's quite common in large-scale migrations because it's hard to get an overall good size for the staging area, or that a link has reached a high watermark. A watermark is something that will be mentioned from time to time, so let's take a moment to explain this. A watermark is a protection mechanism to make sure that the data for one particular link or source system doesn't consume all of the available space in the staging area. The high watermark will stop exports from happening when the amount of space consumed from the disk by this link exceeds the configured value. In some cases, you might have plenty of space free on the staging area, but exports will not run for some or all of the links because of the high watermarks that might have been configured. Let's look at the example we see on the screen. We have a staging area of 100 gigabytes. Of course, normally we would have more than this, but we're just using that as an example. We have 4 links, each configured to have a high watermark of 20 gigabytes. Over on the left, we see how much space each link is consuming on disk. Everything is working normally here. There is 60 gigabyte of free space on disk, and all exports are running normally. Now let's move on to the example at the bottom of the screen. In this section, the 4th link has reached 20 gigabytes used on disk. That is the configured high watermark. So in this situation, even though there is still 45 gigabytes of free space in the staging area, exports will stop, but they'll only stop for that link. It's a balancing act, and something that comes with experience. And of course it's something that you can change during the course of the project if the need arises. The main aim is to keep things moving. The same is true of things like the PST output path. When finalized, PSTs are placed on that location, and no more can be put there, even if there is free space, if the high watermark has been reached. On the page, it's also worth looking at the Sync tab, which shows when various background synchronization activities have taken place, such as when the last transfer of users was done by the Active Directory collector. Finally, on the System Health page, take a look at the Modules tab, and look in the section for credential status. This will show any credentials which have been configured and any issues that have been encountered with them. Other things to check for when looking to see if anything has changed is whether a module has been put on a specific schedule. It might have been done by a colleague or other member of the project team and not adequately communicated. You can see the schedules on the module page, like we see here. If a module reaches the end of a scheduled run window, then it will not request new work. It won't stop pressing immediately, and it will complete the work it currently has queued. It's also worth looking through the system configuration for the modules and features that you have involved in your migration project, and also any of the general settings. As you build up your experience of Archive Shuttle, you'll think of other things that might be specific to particular types of source and target combinations, and also environmental things in customers' networks and other infrastructure. If all of the things here look good, we can move on to the next module, which is a dependency review.